Oh, yeah. That is Reverend Melissa and Reverend Z from a focus ministry. My brain just went completely blank. God. I just had the name. I'm so sorry. I mean no disrespect, Reverend Z and Reverend Melissa. They're out of Santa Rosa. They have a virtual ministry. And so I like to bring different music and let you know who those musicians are so that if you're called, you can get music and enjoy it. So this month's theme is finance, living everyday wonder with finance. And everyone loves to talk about finance. No. Come on, it's like the most favorite thing ever. And for the first few weeks, I spoke about it to the point where I was wondering if anyone would come back. Because I did speak about not only the value and the importance of pledging in a consistent manner, I also talked about the law of circulation in all aspects of our life, not just money. And so today, our talk title is Playing with Money. Yeah, playing with money. So I'm curious, when you hear playing with money, does anything go through your mind? Casino. Okay, first thing on the list, casino. Yes. Yes. If it's your good, you ought to have it, so yes.
We have a lot next to you guys.
Monopoly. Oh, you read my notes, Donna. You read my notes. Okay, Monopoly. Anything else?
Flowers and gardening.
Oh, flowers and gardening. Okay, so playing with money would be buying things that give you joy. Oh, fabulous. That was not on my list, but ought to have been. Okay.
Doing what I want to do and being able to do it.
Okay.
It makes me feel really joyful to be in that position.
Okay, fantastic. So these are ways that we can play with money. I had things like Monopoly, where you roll the dice, move 3 spaces up and collect $200, or you roll the dice and move X amount of spots and get your whatever thing taken away from you. So, the give and take kind of a concept. I did also have gambling, and I also had those that like to invest in stock market or different forms of venture capitalist opportunities. And that's all fantastic, and we all get super excited about that when it is in our flow. How do we feel when we don't have that experience, when we've gone to play Monopoly in the big world of gambling and they took more than that, little piece of property piece? Not always as happy. So some of us go with the intention that I have this much to play with, and then when I'm done with that, I'm good. But others of us go with the intention of I'm going to make money, and if that doesn't happen, it kind of takes our joy away. And so I'm just thinking about that because it's a constant flow, and how we view money has a lot to do with our thought process. We have the concept of buying things that give me joy, and being able to have the money to buy the things that give me joy is a lovely way of embracing the flow of money. And then there's the flow of money called, I can't afford that. My hands are clenched, so therefore, even if I wanted to, I cannot, because I am blocking the flow. And I bring that up just as a gentle reminder, because sometimes we get in situations where we feel a little angst. And when we feel angst, the first thing that we do is we tighten up. This is a natural way of being, but it doesn't help us in any way. So in the process of teaching a class, Spiritual Practice and Principle, and yesterday when we met, we were talking about things that block us. We were using the idea of having an intention set for the class, things that get in the way of our intentions that we set, and most of that being around mindsets, behavior. And if we have these behaviors, such as procrastination or fear or perfectionism, they often block our flow. And we were looking at, okay, if we have this concept of, for instance, perfectionism, what's the story I tell myself on why things didn't work? Nothing familiar for any of you, I'm sure. However, perfectionists want everything to be so perfect that oftentimes they have a backup friend traveling with them called procrastination. They're buddies. Because you see, if I'm not sure I'm going to get it perfect, then I'm going to wait till tomorrow, because in my mind, I'll do better tomorrow, which, procrastination dances along and it does the cheer and says, that's right. And then there's some of us that are deeply rooted in fear that if I don't do a good job, I have failed. Therefore, I am paralyzed in the land of fear, don't even make the attempt, and then procrastination dances along because I'm fear-based. And so you can see how they can be a loop and a cycle. And I kind of bring that up because many of us are in this loop and we're not consciously aware of it. Because if we were consciously aware of it, we could insert some kind of change. Or we get so invested in the story we tell ourselves around it, we're not even aware of the fact that we're telling the story anymore. We're just on and on to justify our situation or circumstance. And I say that again because here's a quote from Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. Prosperity is not a wholly matter of caption or matter of capital or environment, but a condition brought about by certain ideas that have been allowed by the rule of consciousness. Yeah, kind of like what we believe and put out is what we get back in. And if we're wondering why we're not getting much back in, it's because we have that mental equivalent, like the class that I'm going to be teaching in November, that says my container's this big and nothing else can go in there. And I want to expand my consciousness and I want to have a grander receptivity, but I got to throw away this container and be willing to get a bigger one, or that can't possibly happen. Have any of you lived in places other than this area that during autumn season the leaves change color? Oh, good. There's a few of you besides me. Okay, well then some of you will relate to this and others of you will just be looking at us all as though rolling your eyes and saying, really? I love autumn. It is my favorite season. And part of it is the magnificence of the leaves changing color. Not only the leaves changing color, but the different shapes of leaves I don't pay as much attention to, but when I see their variances of color, I'm mindful of that beauty. And that is this amazing demonstration to me that says things are changing around me. Seasons changing, everything's changing. And because I'm so familiar with it, believe it or not, every year, the artist in me would go for walks and pick up leaves. And I'd walk with a handful of leaves, and then I'd finally get a clue to go out for a walk with a baggie to put the leaves in instead of and I would put them out on a table to look at the amazement of their shapes and colors and variations, to be inspired to create. That worked for me. And now I'm seeing pictures in Facebook of people all over sharing their amazing color changes. And I'm a little sad because I don't have the leaf color changes. In fact, I've actually cried a few times because I haven't seen the color changes. But what it reminded me was I can be so caught up in how it's supposed to look. Okay? That's a demonstration of autumn. This that I'm seeing here, guess what? It gets to be my new demonstration of what autumn looks like. And just because it's not familiar doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. And so I had to have some chats with myself that said, just because I'm not familiar with what this autumn looks like, it doesn't mean it's bad. change your thinking. And so I bring this up to you because the truth of the matter is, many of us are like that. We get set in our habits and how we want something to be, and if it's different, some part of us wants to label it wrong, bad. It's just different. And then I'm reminded of this song, Everything Must Change. And lately that's been a great comfort to me. Now, this song was originally done by Quincy Jones in the 70s. My version that I know and remember more is from George Benson. And I will see if I can do this without crying. If, tears are optional, that's okay. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. The young become the old. Mysteries do unfold, because that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. You can sing it with me now. There are so many things in life you can't be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky and hummingbirds do fly. And the lyrics just remind me, I just took a little piece of the lyrics. The lyrics just remind me everything is continuously changing, and if I get dug in, I'm just missing opportunities. I'm just missing opportunities of my good because I want it to look a set way. And now I want to share this with you. The key to wealth is learning how to take charge of your mind. Learning how to process your mind with affirmations, study, and releasing yourself from the major inhibitors of the mind and learning to better use your imagination, which means I can see those colors of leaves. Said most simply, increasing your wealth is a matter of increasing the quality of your thoughts. And this was by the author of Phil Laust, Money is My Friend. We've been talking about money, and I'm just having us look at different ways really to see money. Now, last week I read something that I'm reading every day for myself, and then it dawned on me, I can be reading this for the community. We can be reading this collectively for the community. Because you see, we can get caught up on how pledging looks and watch the little meter go up. That's why we changed it from dollars to people, because we get so caught up in how things are going to be and our angst about, will we get there, as opposed to going into that consciousness of prayer. Spirit provides from known and unknown sources. We don't have to know. It doesn't have to be that tangible where we can look at it and say, oh yes, I can see we're on point. Or, oh, we're not on point, what are we doing wrong? We get to be in a prayerful state of consciousness that which we are seeking for the betterment in our budget for 2023 here is already being revealed. We don't know how. We know if we're willing to be that truth in consciousness, it is already done. We're just standing in the open, receptive space of grace saying, thank you. And saying thank you in advance, because when we do, it means we are open and we are receptive and we are gracious receivers to that which is coming through. And that not only happens for CSLB, but in our personal life. So I'm going to read this. I made copies last week. Many of you took it. Happy to have more copies for you. And those that are taking it, I really would ask that you not only read it for yourself, because that's important, but that you realize the value of just changing the language for this community and how valuable that is as well. So this was written by the recently retired beloved Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, who was in I believe Asheville, North or South Carolina. I get those Carolinas confused. North, thank you. I've got to work on that geography a little bit there. Okay, so it goes like this. I, and then you can say your name. Or you can say Centers for Spiritual Living Beaumont, or CSLB, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now, or I know that our good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share. Sit with that for just a moment. I have an abundance of money to spare and to share. Today and always, I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, perfect happiness. This word which I speak in faith knowing now activates universal law, and I accept, or we accept, the results. I bless, or we bless, all that we have now and bless the increase. I know that we now prosper in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. Now think if you were to read that for a month and lean into that, because that is part of your mental equivalent, to believe what you want to have and to open up to accepting it and expecting it. You know, we say, I deserve the best. I expect the best. And that also means I am openly allowing it in. You need all those components, because you can deserve it, and you can sort of say with a little attitude, I expect it, but you must open the door as well to allow it to flow in. So I want us just to think about any area of our life where, whether it's in your health, in your wealth, or your happiness, you might perhaps need to open the door just a little wider, or throw away that little tiny container you've been carrying around, get a bigger one. It's like plants. This baby needs to be transplanted. When they're too tight, they can't keep growing, okay? If we're too tight in our needing to understand and know and such, it can't flow through. So what would it feel like? Just sit for a moment. What would it feel like if you had a situation going on in your life now with your health, and just because of your deep conviction and belief, knew that you are already healed? You don't know how, but you know that you are. That whole being within you reactivates itself. See, it's been already activated, but then it got a little slow. So it got reactivated, and then all of a sudden this health comes through because you're open to saying, I am healthy. And I know there's folks in this room who could give testimonial about it. So we use that for everything, for my health, for my joy, for my good, in every single area. So, you know, playing with money, let's have a joyful way of playing with money. And for anyone that does not understand the value of making a pledge, I'm not even talking about tithes. I'm just talking about making a pledge, a consistent thing. I'm going to invite you to lean into what part of you feels that that's just a block. Remember the procrastination, the perfectionism. How is it a block where you just say, I'm not doing that? Okay. But are you willing to ask yourself, how come? Because see, next year and I'm inviting everyone, am in this process of visioning that which wants to come through in the new year for this community so that we can have more things available to us. And I'll say it again, we've talked about opportunities to have more live music, okay? Cost some of that for that to happen. That we be able to have events that are on this stream and in Carter Hall together, but we need some updated equipment. I want to do more things. I want to ask community, what are things you want to see happening so we can have it? And I need your love and support for it to occur. Because if everything must change, then in order for that to occur, part of our process or part of our thinking too must change. And so with that, I ask that we go inward. We go inward. We just take a moment with our eyes closed if you're comfortable, or at half mast. We go inward and we be reminded